I dig it. I totally dig it. I'm going to act like there's nothing abnormal going on here. Oh. What is going on, everybody? Welcome into NASCAR by the Numbers. Clearly, I am not here with Armany today. I'm not really sure. I guess Skeletor would be a better person of who I could be here with. I'm not really sure what's going on here, but I do know he has one of those whack dolphins pullovers over. And last time I checked, Armany did have one of those. So I'm not 100% sure who's over here, but I'm here. I'm your buddy, Will, NASCAR Opinion. Over here we got the Motor Minister, used to be Velocity XTC, finally talked him out of all that mess. But Armany, what's going on? just really playing it perfectly. He literally has a skeleton mask on his brain. But anyways, obviously today, Talladega Day. So obviously you are a resident meteorologist, even though you were nowhere near the racetrack. What is the weather looking like today?
All right, as your unofficial official meteorologist, it is cloudy, and that's about it.
Chance of meatballs or chance of rain?
I don't know. Whatever gets me out of work faster.
Meatballs probably, because the world would be in a weird place at that point. But anyways, Talladega Day, obviously. So today's show, we're going to be a pretty quick show. We're going to talk about Talladega, preview Talladega, and kind of talk about the madness that is Talladega. Obviously, I hate that I wasn't here last week when we had Justin on. I had some things that was scheduled for me, but I completely forgot about because I didn't schedule the plan. So I wasn't thinking about things that I don't plan. So I had to go to North Carolina, help my grandmother. She's in the process of moving and all that kind of stuff. But we're back here, Talladega. So let's get into it. Then we will react to the 2021 Cup Series schedule. So Armany, the biggest unknown we were talking about before we got on here, obviously next week is also another unknown. The Roval doesn't secure anything because half the field knows how to run a road course, half doesn't. But today's really the unknown. You could win, or you could be in a 20-car pileup. So what do you think is going to happen, and what do you think makes Talladega so dangerous for these drivers as they try to set focus on the playoffs?
This race could potentially be more chaotic than previous Talladega races, just because in previous rounds we had Kansas coming up. So, okay, you could be a little bit more tame here. You might see some drivers be even more aggressive now than usual, or the exact opposite, just because we have, like we talked about before the show, back-to-back wild cards. Talladega is a wild card. The Roval, we've only been there twice, so it really is still a wild card. Anything could really happen. So you might see some drivers try to play more aggressive than usual, just so okay, at least get one wild card out of the way, and so that they don't have to put all their eggs into another wild card. So I think this race could be more aggressive than usual, especially because this is going to be, I believe, the second race with the new aero package for super speedways.
Right. I remember, plate racing, even though they don't use plates anymore, has been pretty dang interesting so far this year. It's been pretty good packages and stuff. So we're going to see a wild race. Obviously, I hate that I've been missing Truck at Xfinity Series races, but on Saturdays, obviously, I'm at the dirt track. But today, got my little big nephew with me. We're going to watch that race, and we plan on trying to watch the entire race, all 500 miles, and watching it, whether 3 cars finish or 33 cars finish. I just hope it's a good show. If I predict how it's going to go, they'll be pretty calm at the first. I'm not going to say the first stage because the end of the stage is going to be very important. We'll look at that in a minute with the playoff grid, but I think they'll be calm to start off the race. But we've thought that lately too, when they've all been going batshit crazy from the beginning. So who knows? I think it'll be a good race. A lot of unknowns. I just really hope it's a classic race. I hope it's not one of those Talladega races that we get every 4 or 5 years where it's kind of strung out and one team kind of dominates and it doesn't really give you that Talladega feeling, especially Talladega playoff feeling. But you nailed it. There are some guys that are going to have to be crazy today because this is really their hope for a championship. Will lie today. And we'll get in that in more in just a second. But actually, we can go ahead and get into it with the playoff grid. You're looking at it through here. Who would have thought Kurt Busch was going to win last week? So we didn't get to talk about that. So let's first talk about that. What did you think when – I don't know if you got to watch it at all, but Kurt Busch was not in that race at all. Kurt Busch was nowhere near the front. Then obviously a late caution comes with strategy, mixing in some things. And Kurt Busch played the right strategy, stayed out, won a couple of restarts over to Benedetto. And all of a sudden, when a guy like Chase Elliott was dominating the day, he finishes 22nd. A guy like Kurt Busch, who had ran 15th all day, wins the race. Who had him locked in already?
I think most people had him out either this round or the previous round. So it kind of has a very similar feel to Kyle Larson when he won Dover last year. No one really had him, making it past the round of 12, and then all of a sudden he wins, so he makes it to the round of 8. Then now you're really going to see, like, okay, maybe some drivers that we've had make it to the next round, you're going to have to start taking some names out. Drivers like maybe Kyle Busch or Eric Almirola, or even someone like a Truex or a Bowman. Some drivers who we thought could make it to the round of 8, you're going to have to start, because the thing about it is when a driver on the bottom, when they win, it's pretty much like, the points really shrink up. And then you really got to see, like, okay, who is going to make it and who's not. You have someone like Almirola. It's like, okay, he's been a little more consistent than Kyle Busch, but then you got to talk about it's Kyle Busch. Then you talk about someone like Alex Bowman or even Mark Truex. Like, it really shrinks the playoff field when someone like on the bottom goes to the top, especially because not a lot of these drivers have playoff points.
Very true. And if you look at the grid, which I've got right in front of me, Kurt Busch is obviously the only driver that is locked in. Harvick is plus 61. As long as he can maintain that through the day, he will be locked in virtual points. Hamlin is plus 58. He has a shot to be locked in virtual points. We will see if that can happen. They pretty much need to have a top 10 or 15 finish, I would assume. Just don't be involved in the wreck early. If there is one, and you should be good. But then it really, really gets tight. Brad Keselowski sits fourth on the grid. He's only 16 points to the good. Below him is Truex plus 15. Sixth is Logano plus 10. Chase Elliott, who, again, mind you, was probably the car to beat last week at Las Vegas. He finishes 22nd somehow on a bad late restart. He's only 10 points to the good. Alex Bowman's plus 9. And then you look at the 4 drivers below the cut. Kyle Busch, who would have still had him below the cut line, he's 9 points out. Clint Bowyer's 20 points out. Almirola 27 points out. And Austin Dillon 32 points out after having issues last week. Probably going to be an end of a run for that 3 team unless they kind of go out and shock the world today. But as you noted it, I mean, there's just not a lot of people with a lot of points right now. Keselowski's a guy that could easily have bad luck. It feels like he either wins or wrecks at Talladega. Truex Jr., he has kind of been non-existent. I made the joke that he retired earlier this week, and people believed it. So that went really, really well. Logano just has not been Joey. He's just like Brad. He can win it. He could be wrecked and not play a role. I'm sure the 22 and the 2 will be up front at some point in the day. The Penske cars have been so hard to beat, especially Ryan Blaney, which, just a reminder, is irrelevant now. The Penske cars have been good at plate races. Chase Elliott, I mean, all these guys are like the same. Chase Elliott could win the race. He's won a Talladega race a couple years ago. Or he could just be involved in a wreck. He tends to be a really, really aggressive driver at these plate tracks, but a lot of times he also ends up in a predicament to where he's done for the day. So Alex Bowman, you never know who he could be. Then you look at the rest of them. Kyle Busch, it's been a long time since he's won a plate race. He used to be fairly decent at it, and recently he just hasn't had a lot of luck there. Clint Bowyer's Clint Bowyer, Eric Almirola the same way. We saw him win this race a couple of years ago, but I really don't trust Eric Almirola at any given weekend. And then Austin Dillon, he's not a guy that's notorious for plate racing. So it's going to be huge. And just like you noted before, and you could speak on it some more here, the Roval's next weekend. Nothing is guaranteed for these guys. The only guy that could say, well, I still have a shot is a guy like Chase Elliott. If he goes out and has a bad day today, it's going to put him in a tough spot. But Chase Elliott also knows how to get around the Roval. We've seen it. So that could, open up the door.
Yeah, thinking about some drivers who are on that cut line or even below the cut line who have a decent shot. Kyle Busch, he's been hit or miss at Talladega. He led the most laps in 2017. I believe he was up front for the most part in the spring, and obviously the regular season under a Daytona. So he seems to be finally understanding how to work these plate races again. Austin Dillon can be a sneaky pick. The Chevrolets are always decently quick here. I believe he won like 3 poles, I believe all at plate races last year. And he led the most laps in the 2019 Coke 400. So Austin Dillon can be a sneaky one to look out for. That team has been very solid during these playoffs. Bowyer, Almirola, I mean, they're hit or miss. You're going to look out for the Hendrick cars. They're always fast. The Penske cars are always fast. I'll say this, though. For someone like Joey Logano is really no one's going to cut him breaks. I think he's made too many enemies on the track. You can argue, like, then you can make the argument, oh, should he done it? Like, blocking this and that. Because think about it. The way he blocked Chase at Vegas earlier, Chase ain't going to cut him any corners. Kyle Busch ain't going to cut him any corners. Truex probably won't cut him any corners. Still think about 2018. Then he still got Hamlin. That feud's been going on. I mean, too many guys, especially too many guys that are on that cut line, someone like with Logano there, that's really going to be interesting. How many players are going to work with Logano? Are they just going to leave him out to dry, or are they just going to, put their differences aside and try to work with him to get up to the front? It's really going to be interesting to see, how that rivalry, which seems like it's Joey Logano versus the field, with how good of a plate racer Logano is really could affect the outcome of the point standings after today.
I think it's a smart thing you said that I hadn't thought about. I mean, Joey Logano doesn't have a lot of friends at a place where he's probably going to want to try to block. So don't be surprised if he gets turned. Don't be surprised if people don't work with him. He's even had problems with teammates at points this year. So it's a good point I hadn't thought about. Logano may have a tough day today when he's going to need friends. He doesn't have a lot of friends. And the people that are going to be going and working their way to the front aren't going to want to work with him. Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott will be near the front at some point today. They're probably not going to go with that 22 car. So good point that I hadn't thought about. And then to kind of cap off this thing before we get into the schedule is, Bowyer, Almirola, and Dillon are the three that I look at that are below the line that really are in a situation to where they have to perform today. That none of those three are road course racers. Bowyer has been solid at the Roval since they've ran there. But at the end of the day, I don't trust Bowyer to go out and win that race. And so if you can't win, you can't be 25 points below the cut line. I think he has to be within 10 points of striking distance, which means he's going to have to gain 10 points today or win. So it's going to be very intriguing for those guys. And a lot is on the line. We could see some title favorites like Keselowski, Truex, Logano, Elliott. If they wreck out today in the right predicament, they could be in the hole going to the Roval. So it's going to be very interesting. Obviously, the top level guys are pretty much locked in when you look at Harvick and Hamlin. Something drastic would have to happen for them, and even then they would still probably be above the cut line. So we'll have to see what that does for them, but it is definitely going to be intriguing today to see who can pull one out. And, hey, maybe we even get a non-playoff driver that can spice things up. So going into the biggest news piece of the week, me and you obviously knew the second this dropped that this was going to be the topic of discussion. And that is the new 2021 Cup Series schedule. There was a lot of talk about it all week long, a lot of hot takes, a lot of opinions. So I was able to write down, I went through the schedule and just things that popped in. I had 11 changes that I at least recognized. And kind of going through them. Homestead is the second race of the year. Thought that was a very solid move. And obviously I'm not going to give my details on this because we're going to do 3 good and 3 bad. But Homestead's moved up to the second race of the season. Atlanta gets 2 dates. Darlington gets 2 dates. Bristol on dirt, which we will talk about here in a little bit. I'm not sure what's going on there. Dover only has 1 date. Michigan has just 1 date. Circuit of the Americas, me and your boy Armani called that one. Or not called it, but wanted it. So, you can thank us for putting that thought into the air. COTA will officially be on the 2021 Cup schedule. Texas gets the All-Star race. Nashville Speedway, the big 1.5 or mile and whatever oval, not the short track. Road America making a debut, which I believe we also talked about that. And the Indianapolis Motor Speedway road course. So those are the 11 changes I noticed. So let's get into it. Let's start with the good. We'll kick off with the good, the positive. Give me your 3 good ones. I'll give you my 3, and then we'll kind of discuss those. So go ahead and list all 3 of them.
All right, my 3 good ones. Number 1, Road America. That track has been primed for a Cup day for so many decades. It's finally good to finally see. It's a world-class racetrack, so they deserve a Cup day. Number 2, no Kentucky.
I didn't think about that. How did I not put that down?
There is a God. There is a God. No Kentucky on the schedule. Thank the Lord. It went out on a high note, but get rid of the track, demolish it, blow it up, throw a nuke on it, do what you got to do. It's off the schedule. Thank God. That track was horrible. And the third one is probably the most controversial, Bristol Dirt. I love it. A lot of people don't. I'm pretty sure you don't, but I love it.
We'll talk about it here in a little bit. My 3 good. I didn't think about the no Kentucky because it wasn't in front of my face. That is definitely a brilliant move that NASCAR made. But I based it off of the changes that were made, that I could see. So COTA and Road America, huge applause right there for NASCAR. Big deal. Both of those are internationally known road courses. That is where we need to be taking the Cup cars. Quit doing this and doing that and trying to flirt with this roval or that roval. We need one roval. We already have that one roval. It's been working. We're going to stick with that one roval. Big deal to have those road courses. Why they haven't been hosting Cup races, I can't tell you. I don't think NASCAR can tell you. I think they finally realized we're going to quit being stupid, and we're going to finally put cars where we need to put cars. Number 2, both Michigan and Dover moved to one race. Great move. Michigan doesn't need 2 races anymore. Dover hasn't needed 2 races for the last 5-6 years. Dover used to be a badass place to race. It is no longer that place. Even before this package, Dover has really simmered down to what Dover used to be. As much as Dover is unique, I like it. We should definitely go there once a year. That's it, once a year. So really proud of that move. My number 3 good is the same as my number 3 bad, and that is Bristol on dirt. The good part I'll talk about right now is I am going to be excited. I've heard tickets are ridiculous, so I'm probably not going to be going, but I will be excited whenever it happens. But anything NASCAR does something that is just, this is going to be must-see racing TV. Every person is going to come and see what that looks like, and put it on the TV and see what it looks like. Maybe it's just because it's the first time around, but that's great. To be a spectacle. How are you going to set up the cars? Who's going to run well? Who's not going to run well? Everybody's already handling it to Kyle Larson. 1, we don't even know if he's going to be in a car, which he's probably going to be. 2, people act like none of these guys have ever touched dirt. Now, they're not Kyle Larson. Ryan Newman's ran dirt. Alex Bowman's ran dirt. Christopher Bell came from dirt. Tyler Reddick came from dirt. Chase Elliott's ran dirt. I'm sure Ryan Blaney's ran dirt. Like, they're not Kyle Larson, but people are acting like these are the most city boy asphalt race car drivers that have no clue what dirt even looks like. That ain't the case for all of them. Some of them, yes. All of them, no. Like William Byron, I doubt he ever ran dirt. That'll be somebody that you look at and go, we're going to see how this goes, except for the truck race. I'm sure he has a truck race start on dirt. But, yeah, I mean, so to kind of look at both of them, no Kentucky is genius. I feel bad for the people involved. But when you can't perform, you should go. You haven't performed on the schedule since you've been there in 2011. It's time to roll out. We gave you your shot. You couldn't do it. So, really, really good move there. Chicago, I was still a little surprised. Chicago has been a very decent racetrack as of late. They put on some great shows. Don't forget Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson happened at that very racetrack. I think last year they even had a decent race and a decent finish. So Chicago has really performed the last few years, but I'm trying to explain to people, Chicago no longer makes money for NASCAR. They can make more money just selling it or leasing it or however they want to do it. It's no longer an asset. So now, with those being said, I think me and you are on the same page with most of it. Let's get into the 3 bad things. And then I'm sure there'll be a couple of hot topics and debates. Me and you'll probably debate the Bristol dirt race here at the end. But what are your top 3 bad changes to the schedule?
All right. So my 3, two of them I feel like no one's really talked about, but I'll just go off with the easy one. No Iowa or Gateway. I mean, I was shocked that Gateway wasn't on the schedule just because it seemed like everything was aligning for Gateway to be on the schedule. Trucks usually perform a great show at Gateway. IndyCar can sell out a crowd at Gateway. If IndyCar can sell out a crowd at Gateway, people coming to Gateway for a Cup race should be no issue. No offense to IndyCar, but, that's just what it is.
It's just a fact.
And really the main thing that I saw is that they got a premier sponsor for the track, Worldwide Technologies, which has been a huge backer of the 43 car. When they signed on as the primary sponsor for Gateway, I thought that was pretty much like just confirmed that they were going to get a Cup date. Because it's like, okay, like Auto Club, like Phoenix had, it's like, okay, you got a big-time company who's putting money into the racetrack. That more or less means like, yeah, they're going to get a Cup date. So the fact that they didn't really shocks me. I feel like they might have something to do with the Illinois area, maybe something to do with the pandemic. Maybe they're being a little more strict with it, stuff like that. So they're like, okay, let's wait for 2022, maybe see what happens, or maybe they're waiting for the next gen car. That's why I really heard they're waiting on the next gen car before they put on the schedule. But still, very disappointing in my opinion. The second one, the first one of the 2 that no one's really talked about. Well, this one, some people I've seen talk about it. Sonoma's on the West Coast swing. I don't know why they insist on having Sonoma. Just like, here's the thing, with all the new road courses, pretty much most of them are like within like a 10 or 11 week span.
Well, here's one thing, not to interrupt you, but I think one thing that we could be forgetting is they could have done that to try to give Sonoma the best shot. Now, for one, I think it's just NASCAR being NASCAR. But it could be, remember with COVID, California has been shut down. And so maybe they're trying to say, okay, well, we don't want to put it in the spring because there's a higher chance they're not going to run there. Maybe we'll, if they put it later in the summer, there's a better shot of it still happening. I don't know. But I agree with you. No one's talked about that. Me and you have been talking about that for years, that it should be. I've been saying for 3 years it should be in the West Coast swing. It looks absolutely beautiful in the spring. But go ahead, keep harping on what you were saying.
You actually brought that up. California has been locked down for pretty much since the COVID thing started. So, yeah, it might not make a lot of – I mean, taking away the COVID situation, though, like, obviously we can't take away the COVID situation. One thing that's, like, I guess it's kind of like a little – like kind of like a half point. I don't necessarily like how all the road courses are pretty much within, like, a 10 or 11-week span. I don't like how you pretty much, like, just knock them all out at once and that's it. I would have liked to see them a little bit more spread out. Putting Sonoma in the West Coast swing could have been like the perfect opportunity to do that. So the fact they didn't do it again is probably because of COVID. So I understand why they did that, but at the same time, it's still a little bit disappointing. And the last one, which I haven't seen really anybody talk about, the playoff schedule, no changes, none. It's the exact same way as it is this year. I think that's extremely disappointing in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like it's the first year, but at the same time, like you have all these road courses. You could have, what would have been the perfect thing to do, in my opinion, is they should have switched Texas and Circuit of the Americas. Yeah, obviously there's Eddie Gossage. He still thinks that's Texas redeemable, even though at this point they should do with Texas what they were doing to Auto Club at this point. But I mean, Texas in the playoffs, they don't get the ratings. They still don't get the attendance. It's pretty much the same as it is in the spring. So you really want an attention getter. You want to put a little more skill in the playoffs. Especially because the round of 8, I've always complained how the round of 8 is so underwhelming. You got 2 mile, it's just been like that for you. You got 2 mile and a half, and then you got Martinsville. Martinsville, it's still a pretty good race, but a lot of times it can also be hit or miss. Let's be honest here. 2 mile and a half back to back is not a good look, especially for the semifinal round before the championship round at Phoenix. I think if you added a road course there, like switch Texas with Circuit of the Americas, it would add a lot more intrigue, especially because, okay, this is really crunch time. You're really going to say, okay, who's going to make the Final Four? And plus, it would add that little wild card element, which like NASCAR has really been going for, that the first 2 rounds have and the round of 8 doesn't. I think that would have been the smarter option. But the playoff schedule pretty much just being unchanged, I thought was extremely disappointing because it's like, okay, yeah. Because you also can look at it in a way it's like, okay, they're still going with the same playoff format as they were this year. So, like, you got all these new changes, like, during the regular season, but when you come playoff time, it's like, okay, all these new changes are gone. Like, okay, we're pretty much back to 2020. So, I mean, I wish they would have added one of those other road courses to the schedule, like even maybe add Nashville or place with, like, Kansas or something. So that's one major disappointment. Like, they didn't change the playoff system or playoff schedule at all.
I can definitely see the argument there. I wish they would have done with Texas what they did with Chicago and threw it off the damn schedule, but, it is what it is. Eddie Gossage is delusional. They ruined Texas. He ruined Texas. And hopefully he can live with that for the rest of the time he runs that racetrack. He's the single reason that Texas Motor Speedway is now a joke in NASCAR. But we could have a tangent on that all we want to. I'm sure me and you could say a lot of good things about Texas. But my 3 bad are, for one, no new short tracks. I get it. I understand. Going to these facilities is harder than we think it is. Guess what? The fans have asked for one specific thing. And guess what? It wasn't road course racing. It was short tracks. And NASCAR continues to not invest in these local short tracks, to not give them safer barriers, to not give them pit roads, to not give them garages, to not give them the right grandstands, to not give them the correct parking. If you keep doing that, you're never going to have the more short tracks like people are wanting. Yes, is the Auto Club short track going to be cool? We hope. We have no clue. Knowing NASCAR, they're going to go out and find a way to build the worst short track possible, knowing their track record. But we're crossing our fingers and hoping. Great. And it's still only going to get one date on the schedule, I'm sure, year 1, right? Like, I doubt they're going to give them 2 years. The positive is NASCAR did say they're not done with the schedule revamping over the next few years. That's a great thing to hear. And I get it. They have to start somewhere. And adding 3 extra road courses is definitely a start somewhere. And so I was frustrated, not because I'm not happy with the changes that have happened, but it still felt like it was 90% of this year's schedule. because it is 90% of this year's schedule. No short tracks, nothing, not one. We still have 6. In reality, we have 4 short track races a year. Richmond is barely a short track, but technically we have 6 short tracks a year. That is one. I want to make sure I got this math right. That is 1/6 of the schedule, or excuse me, 1/6 of the schedule. I mean, and NASCAR was founded off of local short tracks, and it's 1/6 of the Cup Series schedule. So we have just as many road course races as we will have quote unquote short track races this year. That tells you where we're at. We still have 2 dates at Kansas, still have 2 dates at Vegas. Why are we going to Texas twice? I know one's an all-star race, but still. That was kind of my disappointment. I was really wanting to see at least give me an Iowa or a Gateway. Give me a place that runs like a short track. Nope, didn't do it. Took them off the schedule. I'm glad you noted that for Iowa and Gateway. Apparently, Iowa was about to get shut down. This could be another losing investment. Gateway was very surprised. Like, I predicted Gateway to be on the schedule. No clue why it wasn't. I'm tired of hearing, well, they don't have enough grandstands. We're not selling out the grandstands we have now. What does it matter about grandstands? If only 30,000 people can go, then get the 30,000 people to go. That's more than when you have all this investment in Texas that holds 100,000 and only 50,000 show up. Now you got a half full grandstand. TV makes it look terrible. The ratings look terrible when you do that. The viewership looks terrible. We could go on this forever. Number 2 is the Texas All-Star race. We've talked about that. Why they're going there, have no clue. Terrible idea for an All-Star race. Unless you're going to run the next gen car, that is the only thing that will get me excited about this race. Unless NASCAR tells me they are running the next gen car for the All-Star, I could care less about the All-Star race this year. I would borderline rather not even have it than have it at Texas. It's going to be boring. They're going to ride in a single file line. There's not going to be an All-Star moment. There's going to be nothing special about that race. You finally had the fans back on board with it. You took it to Bristol. Fans were the most excited about the All-Star race they've been in a decade. And guess what? You ruined it the very next year. Typical NASCAR right there. And then number 3, which is the same as my number 3 good idea, is Bristol on dirt. What moron said, you know what, Knoxville, they don't do it good enough. Eldora, they can't do it good enough. Charlotte dirt track, they don't do it good enough. I think Texas has a dirt track. Nope, they can't do it good enough. What idiot sat in their station and said, you know what we should do is instead of making this easy and go to a real dirt track who knows how to host real dirt races and knows how to do it very well, we're going to go to Bristol. We're going to hire a dirt company to move all this dirt inside Bristol. Then we're going to hire them after the race, and they're going to remove it all back out again. And we're going to hire all these people to do all of this. It's going to take weeks processing to load it, get it packed, and then take it back out. Instead of just going to a dirt track who, I know people don't know this, but I work at a dirt track, already has the dirt there, already laid down, has a whole – and this is the bad side of it. To me, this is a slap in the face to people like Knoxville or Eldora. I think the reason Eldora is now going to be out of the truck schedule is because they've been wanting a bigger race from NASCAR, and NASCAR is not giving them one. If you're wanting a dirt race, I get it. I don't want to ruin the specialty of the truck race, but if you're going to go see how Cup cars run on dirt, take them to the place that you've already been. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to be excited. It'll be must-see television. If I find a way to get tickets, I'll go to the dirt race on Bristol.
I'm going.
But it's the whole point is NASCAR has a history of doing this. At first, I wasn't through with the Roval. Now, the Roval has turned out well because it's become its own individual thing. It's stadium road course racing, which is awesome. That's cool. No one else does that. But NASCAR likes to make things difficult. Instead of going to a real road course, we had to go with the Roval for the first year. Now they're making up for the transgressions. Grovel's worked out. They have a couple of international road courses. Everything's cool. Now, instead of let's go into a real dirt track, there's literally one right across the street from your home racetrack. Charlotte Motor Speedway is walking distance from the Charlotte dirt track. Nope. We're going to go to Bristol. We're going to hire a bunch of people to put dirt on it. We're going to run. They better at least do it for 2 or 3 weeks because it's not going to be worth the money to do it for 3 days and then you empty back out the dirt to have it clear by August or September or whenever they run there. Me and you have different perspectives of it. I see the positives. I'm going to be excited when it does happen, but it's just, to me, that this is just one, like, nobody asked for this. Nobody was even talking about Cup cars on dirt. We just wanted short tracks. That's all we wanted. Give us Langley. Give us South Boston. Give us Greenville Pickens. Give us Kern County. Give us the fairgrounds. No, we're going to put dirt on Bristol.
Here's like the one thing I kind of understand like Bristol. I feel like what NASCAR's trying to do is like, well, number one, Bristol's done it before, so I'm pretty sure they're like, okay, we're just gonna do it again. They did it with what was it, the World of Outlaws back in like 2001 or something.
Yep.
I think what they might be trying to do is like trying to see how the NASCAR fan base, like the NASCAR market, is going to react to a dirt race. I think they might be testing their market out. So like, okay, we're gonna just take this track, we're gonna, we're gonna turn into dirt so we can see how our fan base will react to a dirt race, how how really interested they are.
Here would be my one rebuttal to that is you're not really getting a true audience then, because if I told you right now we're gonna put dirt on Daytona and we're gonna go dirt racing at Daytona, you're gonna be like, well, hell yeah, I'm gonna watch that race.
Of course,
it's not a true dirt race. Anybody's gonna turn on Bristol, and for most people our age never saw that race. We didn't even really remember that race because we weren't old enough to remember watching racing back then. Think about the people that are younger than us, may have not even been born when that race took place. Of course, this is going to be something you're going to watch and you're going to want to go to. But if you want to test out real dirt racing, go to a real dirt track, because at that point, the track's going to be right. There's not, I hope we pack it in correctly. I hope this lane comes in, this lane comes in. What I guess I'm trying to say is, if it's like if NASCAR wanted to say, we're going to start having a circus as our pre-race every week. We're going to have a traveling circus with us. The way you would test that out is you would bring the actual circus and you would see how people react. You don't announce, we're going to have an actual circus, but everybody's going to be on fire. Of course you're going to go to it then, because not only is it a circus, but now it's on fire. But if it's not on fire every single week, then maybe the circus isn't cool anymore because nobody's on fire. It's one of those deals. Like, I get it. It's going to do exactly what they wanted to do. Marketing, it's going to be a huge market. If they market it right. NASCAR tends not like to market their things right. But if they market it right, I mean, it is going to be, like I said, it's going to be must-see television. I'll be watching. Everyone will be watching. It is going to be a big deal. There's no argument for me there. And that's why it's on my good and bad list. It is something unique and different that we have not seen. Anytime we can do that, I'm pretty damn excited about it. But why don't just go to Knoxville? Why don't go to Eldora? To me, that's still your better shot of getting the real dirt fan crowd, because, I haven't heard people complain, but at the same time, everybody's like, are they really doing this? Are they really about to put dirt on top of Bristol again? You know what I mean? But I get it. So, I'm not opposed to you and what you're excited for. Hell, I'm excited for it. I felt like they could have done something a little different. And I'm just pissed because there ain't no new short tracks.
Here's like I said, going back on it, I think NASCAR, they want to test before they really just go all in on like a market. Like, okay, like let's say Dirt Bristol does amazing. Then they'll be like, okay, maybe now there's like, okay, there's a market out there for dirt, for stock cars. Then let's finally go all in on Eldora or Knoxville or whatever. But I don't know. But I feel like the number one reason they did it is because, yeah.
And the point you make is probably true. I get it. I think it's not the correct way for them to think, but I get it. And that, it's the same thing with road course racing, right? We had 2 road courses for the longest. We threw in the Roval, and everybody loved it. And everybody was like, well, everybody likes road course racing now. Now we've got 6 of them. I don't want any more than 6. Like, as much as I love road course racing and I respect road course racing, you have to remember this still is NASCAR. And NASCAR at its core was founded on backwoods, short track, oval racing. Part of the reason we need to get more short tracks. But what you're saying is very true. And what we will probably have in the next 5 to 10 years is we'll have 2 or 3 dirt races. We'll go to Knoxville. We'll go to Eldora. We'll go to the Charlotte dirt track. And I get what you're saying. It is definitely a trial run. It is definitely a place to try and pick your interest. But also remember, people go to the Bristol spring race regardless. It hadn't been as good as the night race lately, but people are going to go to Bristol whether it was asphalt, whether it was concrete, whether it was dust, whether it was dirt, whether they filled it up with water and had boat racing. People are going to show up to Bristol. But what you're saying is right. It's an easier way for them to just test it, see if the market's there. I just logistically thought they could have done something better.
Yeah, and like you said before, they needed to find a way to revive Bristol spring race. It was dying. You had people saying that just give Bristol one date. That's how bad it was.
I was saying that at one point. When I made up a schedule 2 or 3 years ago, I just said let's give Bristol one race. I did have Bristol in the playoffs, so I did spark that debate. But it would be the one race, the night race. It'd be late in the season during the playoffs. The one time a year you get to go to Bristol. Nobody wants to go to it twice. Let's go to it once.
Yeah, so that's why they're like, we need to find some way to revive it. So they're like, hey, let's put it on dirt.
Yeah. Well, we definitely got our reactions. Me and you agree on a lot of stuff. Why there's no Gateway, I have no clue. Why there's no Sonoma on the West Coast Swing, have no clue. Hate that for Iowa. Apparently, everybody's acting like Iowa's done been buried and you can't see it no more, and there's cornfields growing in it. But apparently Iowa is in very, very bad financial situations. But yeah, I think me and you are pretty much on the same page. Thank God you reminded me of No Kentucky. If there's any highlight of my day, thank God you reminded me of that, because I had no longer thought about that.
My Mr. Powers worked.
It worked, man. You did it. Me and you have just been on it when talking about racetracks. We said we want Kentucky off the schedule. It happened. We said we wanted Dakota. It happened. We wanted Road America. It happened.
NASCAR. Just watch our show.
Just watch our show. We've been calling it.
Let's it out. Exactly.
But anyways, we appreciate everybody tuning in this week. Obviously, what you got?
Did we give our Talladega picks?
We didn't. Ooh, good call. Who you got?
Denny Hamlin. Pretty boring pick. But he's got top fives in 2 out of the last 3 plate races without the restrictor play, including which are back-to-back in last year and this year's race.
Well, the disappointing thing is I also had picked Denny Hamlin. Because this is the perfect race, the perfect build-up where, it's the big, bad, wild card race, and anybody can win. And we don't know who's in the same guy who's already pretty much locked in wins. Pretty much how that race is going to go. So that's what I have going. Hamlin has been so good on plate races lately. He's one of the best in the business. If Ryan, it's going to be either him, it's the 11 or the 12 car. That's probably what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Where can they find you? Well, now you got the new tag, the @Motor Minister. Thank God you made that change. I had to talk you into it. We got that. Obviously, you can find me at NASCAR_opinion. I'll be tweeting throughout the day. Like I say, I got my little big nephew here with me. We're going to watch the race here in a little bit after we watch the Panthers get beat for the first hour of their game. And, we'll roll on. And Armani, seal it off, son. You got that mask with him. But we appreciate everybody listening to us. Obviously, we're going to continue to work on this and make some tweaks and stuff as we move forward. And we may test out some new things as we finish out the season. Obviously, it's been a long one. We're excited. We're both blended on Bristol on dirt, but Armani said he's going. Maybe I could talk myself into going. We'll all get dusty. It's going to be mad.
It's going to be like the debate last week, pure chaos.
Calling it now, Kyle Larson does not win the Bristol dirt race.
He's going to lead every lap, knowing Kyle Larson.
No, I'm calling it. He ain't going to win. He might lead some laps. He ain't going to freak it. Don't worry. He'll tear the doors off of it. Don't worry.
He won in a late model in his second start.
There's no bones about it that he's good. For one, also remember, driving a dirt cup car is going to be different than any car he's ever driven. So just remember. But we're going to get out of here. Armani, he's going to get to work. I'm going to get to my TV. We got to watch the Panthers lose for a little bit, and then we will get to watch Talladega. This is legitimately one of my favorite races of the year. So with that being said, we will see you next week.